Not long ago, in Chicago, a truck driver crashed into an overpass. Within minutes, a tow truck he never called pulled up, and the operator gave him a quick verbal estimate of about $800 to move his trailer. Then the bill arrived, and it landed like a punch. It was not $800, it was $17,155, and the company refused to release his trailer until he paid. Sit with that number for a second. $17,000 to move one vehicle a short distance from a company nobody invited. That is more than the price of a decent used car, charged for a single tow the driver never asked for. How is that even possible? It is a number that feels less like a fee and more like a ransom, and in a way, that is exactly what it is. There is a simple explanation, and it is not incompetence or a mistake on the bill. It is the business model working exactly as designed. It is possible because a tow company does not really make its money moving your vehicle, it makes its money holding it. That tow is just the hook. The real business is the lot where your car sits afterward, the clock that runs while it waits, and the sale at the end if you cannot pay in time. That is the strange engine we are pulling apart today. What a towing operation actually costs to run, why the truck is the least valuable thing the company owns, and why the moment your car lands on their lot, the meter starts and the upper hand is entirely theirs. So a tow company is not a rescue service wearing a business costume. It is a parking lot that fills itself, charges by the day, and gets to keep whatever nobody comes back for. By the end of this, you will see exactly where the money hides, and why the whole model sits at the mercy of a rule that can change overnight. Start with what you actually need to build one, because the truck is only the beginning. A tow truck itself is not cheap. Depending on what it can handle, one runs anywhere from about $58,000 for a basic light-duty wrecker, to well over $850,000 for a heavy rig that can lift a loaded semi. And heavy-duty recovery, pulling a crashed 18-wheeler off a highway, commands the biggest fees of all, often thousands of dollars for a single complex job, which is why those enormous specialized trucks exist in the first place. But the truck is just the tool. What you really need is a secure lot, a fenced piece of ground where you can store the vehicles you bring in. That lot, not the truck, is the money machine, because storing cars is where the real revenue lives. A truck can only be in one place at a time, earning one fee. A lot can hold 100 cars at once, every one of them quietly charging rent around the clock. On top of that, you need licenses, you need bonding, and you need insurance, which is heavy and getting heavier, especially in the places now cracking down on aggressive towing. And then you need the thing that actually feeds the business, contracts and relationships. A spot on the police rotation list, so you get called to accidents and abandoned vehicles. Deals with motor clubs like AAA, relationships with insurers, with banks that need cars repossessed, and with private property owners who want cars removed from their lots. So there are tiers to this business. The small independent operator with one truck, chasing calls, the mid-sized company with a rotation contract and a busy impound lot, and the large regional player juggling police work, repossessions, and insurance jobs across a whole metro area. But whatever the size, look at what you are really buying. Not a truck, a storage lot, and a book of contracts, with the truck as the tool that fills them. You inherit a business whose value sits in some very specific places. First, you inherit the lot. That fenced yard is the heart of the operation, because it is where cars pile up and quietly generate a daily fee. A tow company, without a good impound lot, is just a truck for hire, scraping by on one fee at a time. A tow company, with a big lot and a steady flow of cars, is a machine that prints money by the day. The cars do the earning, just by existing on the ground you own, whether you lift a finger or not. Second, you inherit the contracts, and this is where the money actually comes from. The police rotation, which sends you accident and abandoned vehicle calls. The repossession work, where banks pay you to grab cars and then pay you to store them. The insurance salvage jobs. The motor club roadside calls. These relationships are the real asset, worth far more than any single truck. A company can lose a truck to a crash and replace it in a week. Lose the police rotation contract, and half the business can vanish overnight. Third, you inherit a ceiling you do not control. For the tows people do not ask for, the accident tows, the police tows, the rates are often set by the city, capped by regulation. You cannot just charge whatever you want on that work, and in a growing number of places, lawmakers are tightening those caps every year. And fourth, you inherit a reputation risk that hangs over the whole industry, because the same features that make this business lucrative, the captive customer, the daily fees, the built-in advantage, also make it ripe for abuse, and abuse invites lawsuits, license revocations, and crackdowns. Hold that, because it is the trap. A towing operation has several income streams, and their order is the whole surprise. Layer 1. The tow itself. Somebody calls, or the police call, and you send a truck to move a vehicle. For the tows people request, you charge a hook fee plus mileage. For the tows they do not, the accident and police work, the rate is often capped by the city. This is the visible service, the thing everyone thinks the business is, and it is frequently the least profitable layer of all. Layer 2, and this is the profit center. Storage. Once a vehicle is on your lot, it starts accruing a daily fee, and that fee runs every single day until the owner, or their insurer, comes and pays to get it back. A car that sits for a week is a week of fees. A car that sits for a month is a small fortune. And the owner is often powerless to stop the clock, because the fees keep climbing while they scramble to find the money, which only makes the car harder to afford to reclaim, which makes it more likely to be abandoned. The genius, from the operator's side, is that this revenue requires almost no additional work. The car just sits there, and the meter runs. Layer 3. And here is the part most people never see coming: the unclaimed vehicles. Roughly 40% of impounded cars are never reclaimed at all. The owner cannot afford the mounting fees, or the car is not worth it, so they walk away. After a legally set period, usually 30 to 90 days, the company completes a lien process and sells the car at auction or for scrap. Depending on the jurisdiction, the company keeps all the proceeds, or keeps enough to cover its fees. So the very cars that get abandoned become another payday. Think about the strange incentive buried in that. A car the owner cannot afford to reclaim is not a loss to the operator, it is a windfall waiting at the end of the storage clock. Layer 4. The contracts that guarantee volume. Repossessions, where the bank pays for the tow and the storage, a steady and reliable stream. Insurance salvage hauling, motor club work. These do not always carry the fattest margins, but they keep the trucks busy and the lot full, and a full lot is a lot that is earning. Layer 5. The darkest and often the most lucrative per car, private property towing. A store, an apartment complex, or a lot owner hires you to remove cars parked without permission. You tow the car, and then the driver has to pay a steep release fee to get it back. This is the corner of the industry where the predatory reputation was born, and where a single tow can turn into thousands of dollars. It is also where the uninvited trucks come from, the ones that appear at a crash scene nobody called them to, smelling the money in a stranded, panicked driver. Here is the thing almost nobody sees clearly: the tow, the actual act of moving your car, is the least important part of the whole operation. The money is made after the car is already on the lot. It is made by the day, in storage fees, while the vehicle just sits there. And it is made at the end, when nearly half of those cars are never reclaimed and get sold off. Listen to that again. The business is not moving cars, it is holding them. Every day a car sits on that lot, the operator earns, doing nothing, and roughly 40% of the time, the owner never pays enough to get it back, and the company sells the car and keeps the money. You are not looking at a rescue service. You are looking at a parking lot that fills itself, charges rent by the day, and gets to auction off whatever nobody claims. Once you see it that way, the $17,000 bill, the truck that shows up uninvited, the refusal to hand the car back, all of it suddenly makes cold, perfect sense. Turn the page to what leaves the account, because the costs are real and heavy. Trucks are the first big one. They are expensive to buy, they depreciate, they burn fuel, and heavy recovery rigs cost a fortune to maintain. Then the drivers, who are on call at all hours, in dangerous conditions on the side of highways. Then the lot itself, the rent or the mortgage on that fenced ground. And then the cost that is quietly crushing this industry: insurance and compliance. Towing is a high-risk business, and premiums are steep, especially in areas with active enforcement against predatory operators, where the required coverage is far higher. Add the licensing, the bonding, and the legal exposure, and the paperwork side of this business is enormous. Now notice the squeeze. Your costs, the trucks, the insurance, the lot, are largely fixed and rising, but your most reliable revenue, the non-consensual tows and the storage on them, is capped by regulators and dependent on contracts you do not own. Fixed, rising costs on one side, revenue with a government ceiling on the other, and a huge chunk of your income locked behind contracts that can be handed to someone else at the next bidding round. That is the shape of the ledger, and it is the setup for the trap. Here is the trap, and for a tow company it is unlike almost any other business. You do not own your best revenue, you rent it from the government. Think about the position, the profit centers, the police rotation, the capped rates on accident tows, the storage fees on impounded cars, are all defined by municipal contracts and local regulation. You did not set those rates, and you cannot protect them. A city can rewrite the rules, lower the caps, or hand your rotation contract to a competitor at the next bid. In an instant, the stream you built your business around can shrink or vanish. And there is a second, sharper edge. The more aggressively an operator squeezes the model, the uninvited tows, the inflated fees, the cars held hostage, the more public anger it generates. And that anger turns into exactly the regulation that kills the business. Cities are now passing ordinances that cap fees, let towing victims sue operators directly, and even authorize the police to impound the tow trucks of predatory companies. So the very behavior that makes the most money in the short run is the behavior that invites the crackdown in the long run. You are caught between a revenue ceiling you cannot lift and a reputation that can bring the whole system down on your head. To understand this business, go back to 1916, to a garage in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and a problem that had nothing to do with money. A mechanic named Ernest Holmes got a call. A friend of his had driven a Model T off the road and into a creek. To get it out, Holmes gathered 6 men, and using ropes, chains, and blocks, they struggled for 8 long hours to drag that single car up the bank. It was brutal, dangerous, miserable work. Cars in that era were heavy, and the tools were crude, and when it was finally over, Holmes was certain of one thing: there had to be a better way. So he went back to his garage and began experimenting. He took a 1913 Cadillac and rigged it with an iron chain, a set of poles, and a pulley system, so that one man and one machine could lift and haul a wrecked car. It took a few tries, but he got it working. He patented his invention, and the tow truck was born. His design was so good that within a few decades, by one estimate in the 1960s, around 95% of the tow trucks in the entire world were built using his components. Now here is the irony worth holding on to. The tow truck was invented for one reason: to rescue a stranded driver in trouble. It was an act of help, born out of a miserable day pulling a friend's car from a creek. 100 years later, that same invention sits at the center of an industry where the money is often made not by helping the stranded driver, but by holding that driver's car until they pay. So watch how this business breaks when someone misunderstands what it actually is. In the late 1990s, one company decided it would do something nobody had done before. It would take the towing industry, which was a scattered mess of thousands of small local operators, and roll it all up into a single national giant. The idea sounded brilliant. Buy up hundreds of little towing companies, put them under one brand, and dominate the country. So it went on a buying spree, funded by piles of debt and stock. It raised tens of millions, then tens of millions more, snapping up local towing and transport companies across the United States and Canada at a furious pace. But the plan ran straight into the real nature of the business. Towing is local. The contracts are local. The rates are capped locally. The relationships are local, and none of those pieces fit neatly together into a national machine. It could not integrate what it bought. Losses came fast. In 1 year it lost close to $30 million on revenues of $255 million. The next year it lost a staggering $159 million, including a massive write-down, admitting that much of what it had bought was worth far less than it paid. Its stock cratered toward delisting. In a desperate move to prop up the share price above the minimum, it did a reverse split. 10 old shares collapsed into one. It failed. The stock was delisted to penny status, and the company ended up in the hands of an investor known as a buyer of last resort. A great national towing empire had collapsed into a shell. The lesson is exactly the lesson of this business. Towing is not one big machine. It is 1,000 small, local, rate-capped, contract-dependent operations, and the revenue was never really yours to command. So who actually thrives at this, and how? The winners understand what they are really sitting on. 1. They build the business on the lot and the contracts, not on the tow. They know the durable money is the impound lot generating daily fees, and the steady contracts, the repossessions, the insurer deals, the legitimate police rotation that keep the trucks busy and the yard full. The single roadside tow is the least of it. 2. They diversify their contracts. Because any one contract can be lost at the next bid or terminated for a breach, the survivors spread their work across repossessions, insurance jobs, motor clubs, and municipal rotations so that losing one does not sink them. 3. They stay on the right side of the regulators. This is the quiet truth of the industry. The aggressive, predatory operators make headlines and then get shut down. Their licenses pulled, their trucks impounded. The companies that last for decades are the boring, compliant, professional ones that never give a city a reason to come after them. They treat their license as the single most valuable thing they own, because without it, every truck and every lot they have is worthless. 4. They run the lot with discipline, turning over the unclaimed cars efficiently through clean lien sales, managing their space, and keeping the yard flowing rather than clogged. And 5. They own the land. That impound lot is a piece of real estate that holds its value, and the smart operators own it rather than rent it, so the ground itself becomes an asset that grows while the trucks do the daily work. None of that is about loving trucks. It is a good lot, diversified contracts, clean compliance, and owned land. In a business this dependent on rules and relationships, that discipline is the entire edge. So does owning a tow company work. Let us run it, and treat this as a model, not a real company. You operate a mid-sized towing business with a few trucks, a spot on the local police rotation, a steady repossession contract with a bank, and a large, well-run impound lot. In a good year, your trucks stay busy on accident and repo calls, your lot stays full of cars quietly racking up daily storage fees, and a healthy share of the unclaimed ones go to auction and clear as pure profit. Run cleanly and professionally, this is a really strong, steady business, sitting on a piece of land that only grows more valuable. That is the good year. Now the other side. The city reviews its towing rules after a wave of complaints, caps your storage and tow rates, and puts your rotation contract out to a fresh bid, which a competitor wins. Your steadiest revenue thins overnight, or worse, one aggressive driver, one hostage car, one viral bill, and suddenly regulators are circling your license. You did not lose because demand disappeared. Cars still crash, and still get repossessed, every single day. The demand never went anywhere. You lost because the revenue was controlled by people who are not you. Every truck still ran, every lot was still full, and none of it mattered, because the rules underneath had shifted. But here is the real verdict. A tow company is not a bet on how many cars you can move. It is a bet on contracts and regulations you do not control, wrapped around a lot full of other people's cars. Winners are the ones who treated it coldly, as a real estate and contracts business that happens to own trucks, and who never gave the regulators a reason to rewrite the rules. So the honest answer is this: in the right hands, with a good lot, diversified contracts, and clean compliance, a tow company can be a very good, very durable business. But it lives on revenue that a city can cap or reassign at will, in an industry where the most profitable behavior is the fastest way to get shut down. It is a storage and contracts business dressed up as a rescue service, and the rules can change the moment enough people get angry. So look again at what a tow company really is. Not a rescue, not the truck racing to the scene, or the hook, or the winch pulling your car from a ditch. That is the part everyone sees, dramatic and cheap, and mostly rate capped. You bought a fenced lot where cars pile up and pay rent by the day. You bought a book of contracts, the police rotation, the bank repossessions, the insurance jobs that fill that lot with a steady supply of vehicles. And you bought the right, at the end, to sell off the roughly 40% of them that nobody ever comes back to claim. That tow was never the product. It was just the delivery. A tow truck was invented to rescue a stranded driver from a creek. 100 years later, the money is not in the rescue at all. It is in the lot where the car waits, the clock that runs while it sits, and the sale at the end if the owner cannot pay in time. The truck never makes the money, the lot does.